radar now.
You're all officially undoxed?
No, but what it means is like Deloitte is like a dynasty, you know, like they're you know, like a mafia almost. And like they're a consultant company, but they've done very interesting things. Like there's a lot of controversy around Deloitte. And that they're like at the crypto conference, like they're doing like fucking DAO like consulting or something. And so it's like I didn't, but I should have gone up and been like, hey, so talk with me about token weighted voting and governance. Like, do you all actually have a fucking clue? Or are they just here to start like farming the money?
Fascinating.
Yeah, but you know, I think the larger sentiment is what that means is that like, you know, we got like professionals, like big time professionals are starting to enter the space. And whatever comes with that, good and bad.
I do wonder how all the cultural element is perceived through these professional eyes. Because I mean, it's fine when it's blockchain, but what do you do about these unicorns and ghosts and all these other funny memes?
We need notes. Hang on.
I do. But okay, seems like the usual crew is here. Ernest dropped notes earlier, from what I remember.
Oh, good deal.
Just get our friend Craig here.
Now recording.
Perfect. And I guess we can start progressing as people are coming in. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's governance meeting. I posted the agenda earlier. Yeah, so 3 points at least I have. One is to talk about what to do with all the proposals that we have on the forum. Second is to do a quick round of updates from the short-term work groups and then kickstart conversation about some of the long-term working groups. Are there any other suggestions for the agenda?
I don't think so.
Thanks, Ice. All right, let's get started with all the pending proposals. So here, just a quick background from at least my perspective. We, as a group, are one of the ways in which we can govern is to post suggestions in the form of proposals to the community and then have them approved by passing through quorum. However, if we just keep proposals on forum and do nothing about it, they may not be able to pass themselves. So, yeah, at least my idea here is to figure out which proposals do we take like seriously to signal boost, or do we just signal boost all of them to quorum? And if in whichever way we choose to go, is there like a standard procedure we follow on how to do PR for each of these proposals? Should there be like a squad that does this, or yeah, open to comments and suggestions?
We got to start spamming channels, spamming people.
I mean, I don't think it's our job to push proposals that aren't related to governance.
I also don't think we should push proposals that aren't particularly well written, and some of those aren't.
Yes, I feel it's the responsibility of the author for a large degree, you know, unless it's a governance workstream initiative.
think I tend to agree with True and Ernest there that like the author should take primary lead on trying to push the proposals through, whether that's spamming the channels, right, ICE, which I think is totally and super important, you know, attending guild meetings, DMs, like whatever it might be, right? Like, yeah, and I share that same concern with TrueCat. I mean, just like without, you know, trying to point you like into particular proposal. And some of those, like, I don't know that I agree with, you know, the way that they're implemented or written as is, you know. I mean, just as an example would be the dynamic form quorum one. Like, I like the idea of a dynamic form requirement, but I just can't get behind some of that proposal, particularly like having projects calculate, you know, their own form quorum requirements and stuff. So like, I don't know, you know, it's a great question, Jenka, and like, it's something we got to figure out. But, you know, this is kind of getting going in a more official capacity now. And I think in the meantime, until we kind of have, like Ernest said, the sort of guild or the Workstream created products, you know, it's incumbent upon the authors to promote, you know. So, I mean, maybe one step, Jenga, is to kind of go through them and see where the support is for each one, and then think about some kind of marketing around that, for lack of a better term.
But here's the interesting thing: if we do not promote these proposals, no one will be commenting on these proposals, and we'll not be getting the honest opinion which we need.
Well, I agree, but like some of these been up for a couple months, right? Like, and so maybe they're just not the right proposal to get the particular work within the proposal done. You know, whether that's, you know, BDIP 3 or 4 or 6 or, you know, it seems like, you know, things like the GSE, you know, that needs to get wrapped up and is probably, you know, doesn't need to be rethought or rejiggered maybe. You know, same with, we got to figure out the government, you know, there's like competing governance department proposals now. So we got to get consensus around that a little bit. Maybe I'd misread that one, Bear, that you dropped last week. And maybe it doesn't directly hit at BDIP 4, but maybe it does. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's consensus around what's there to move forward, right? And so how do we move forward as a work stream without consensus around what's already sitting on the forum? And then one way around that's to leave it to the authors.
Yeah, I kind of agree with leaving it to the authors, because one would hope that the author would also be responsible for taking that proposal to the finish line. Getting consensus is, like, in a lot of ways, the starting line. And if we put a lot of our work into getting consensus, and then the person kind of doesn't, you know, they drop off for whatever reason, or they decide not to continue implementing, it just ends up wasting our time. I think like the incentives are aligned if the author is gathering consensus.
And my problem here is that if we look at what was happening like 1.5 years ago, the people who were writing proposals did not have to do like major PR for something to just reach quorum. Forget even about like reaching consensus on something, just reaching quorum. And now we are in the stage where we set quorum too high, like whatever, 8-9 months ago, and then we can pass like nothing unless like each author pushes it. So it's like, sure, the original idea made sense a long time ago, but now it just feels like a burden.
I mean, maybe like authors of proposals should attend other organizational unit work streams to discuss how their proposal impacts the organizational unit. I mean, I think it's real sloppy to just assume you just throw something up on the forum and then, you know, that's all you have to do. Gathering and building consensus is as much as part of the proposal framework and part of good governance as, you know, crafting a good proposal. You know, maybe we need to encourage authors, and maybe we can suggest ways they can engage the DAO more, and or refine their proposal.
Right. I think there's even mention in the Constitution of them having to be available to attend community calls. And so perhaps there's an opportunity there to have them attend community calls and actually, or at least, you know, if they're not there, at least just have the proposals discussed a little bit further at the community call instead of just mentioned.
Yeah, or even continuing during the roundtable discussion, which could potentially happen afterwards. So kind of mention that there's the proposal, and you know, because we might not want to discuss those things during the community call because there may be not enough time, but if you put up something on the forum, you may want to also be available for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, after the community call to have an open discussion with the community.
This is a good roundtable thing. Like this, I think this suggestion is really good. Because I think that what's like the problem, like all suggestions are good. I think that everybody's brought forward. Like the problem is forum fatigue, something, proposal fatigue, something. And so, it 100% is the responsibility of the, like the proposer to drive their proposal forward. I think it's like we're kind of suggesting, like, how do we support that? Like, how do we create spaces for that? And I think community call is a great one. I think the challenge that I'm experiencing is like the announcement is I feel like I'm just spamming people right now. Like, go fucking vote.
Yeah,
And
and
that sometimes works.
Yeah, and if we compare it to like the hype time, there was no use or need for doing any of these attention grabbing posts, right? It would just automatically become like 80 votes in 2 weeks or 1 week.
But I think that's a signal that, other things are not quite right with the DAO. I don't think that that's something that we just kind of try and smooth over by, ignoring the fact that the participation is really low. Like, we need to find out how to increase the participation.
I think we got to play with incentives, and I'm actually quite happy that Ernest suggested something like, word count. Incentives models are built around if you write a proposal, you get something paid out depending on how many words you write, just like as an idea. So I think creating or developing incentives and we're perhaps already doing it with ThriveCoin. I think I remember there was a reward that you can get if you make a valuable comment or like a meaningful comment on the forum, and this criteria is already out there. So the solution might be just to raise more awareness on those contribution samples on that platform, so people see, oh, if I engage here, I'm not just making a valuable contribution to the DAO, I'm actually also earning something.
I like that. I think I also would like to add, maybe we have an expectation gap problem. We have, it takes 61 votes to get a major patch through on the Constitution. We have about 50 to 60 people on community calls. There's about 120 active people on the server on a weekly basis, if I remember from that server analysis we did through CAT a couple weeks ago for the rollup. And we have 10 or 12 people here more than that today. Who care deeply about governance and where we're at, right? Which is a huge proportion of the people who are otherwise pretty active in the DAO. So I don't know. Maybe it's not inactive as we think it is, because we actually have a pretty good portion of the people who regularly show up, here today, and who participate in community calls, voting, for example, on BDIP 7, which didn't look last, but it got past the major threshold. And so, maybe participation is not as bad as we think it is compared to the number of people who are actually participatory in the DAO on a weekly basis, which again is about 120. So,
yeah, and I agree with that. I think TrueCat's, your point's valid of like, how do we encourage involvement? But also, I'm just aware that governance is something that people have struggled with involvement forever. Like, these challenges are not new. It's governance in ancient times. Like, only there's so many complaints around like, how do we get people to get involved in governance? I know that there's a tremendous amount of study and analysis on like, oh, let's make it fun, let's do this, let's do that. And I'm kind of at this point, having heard this for 2 years in different DAOs, and like, what do we do to like? I'm kind of settling on like, the people that care stay involved in governance. But to your point, Hero, is, I think, probably valid. I think there's a degree of fatigue that happens. Like we've got like what 10 proposals going right now or something, probably more. And I think the challenge is back to a democracy challenge of like, proposals in different arenas with non-simple solutions, with complex involvement in multiple layers of the DAO. And I think that what often happens is that like some people are working on stuff and it's like to read a humongous, or at least a very dense and potentially complicated proposal, we just, it's hard. Like people are busy. They'd rather tweet, or whatnot. I don't know. It's just like the attention span. I know even for me, like I have to like commit to reading something and dig through it. And so that's not helpful, but I think I just want to acknowledge like we do seem to have like people that are here, people that care, and maybe it's just, I don't know, a matter of driving, talking a lot about it.
You bring up very good points, Ice Cool, and an idea that popped up in my mind right now is perhaps translating some of that content. I mean, we use English as our primary language, but I think we have much more languages within the DAO, and so if we perhaps want to increase the engagement of other native speakers, or other languages, other community members that have different language as a native language, then it might be worth thinking about ways we could make it more accessible for them, which would definitely be, translating it in their main language. Because as you said, even you, Ice Cool, as a native English speaker, it's a tough thing to, go through the proposal, think through it, and, think about the valuable comment that you can make in order to make it even better. And so, now you can imagine how it's for someone, I don't know, let's say Bankless Brazil or Bankless China, whatever.
Or something like that. But the proposals themselves, they really have to be something that's easily consumable.
Also, I think written proposal format in general is only restrictive to people who read and learn information versus those who are visual learners. So just by restricting governance to the scope of what is written is irrespective of language restricting people from accessing governance. So imagine if their proposal is just like one meme or one video, that makes it so much more inclusive than like word soups that people love to write.
And I love like a video. I mean, I think one thing I'd love to see more of personally again is like the TLDR, and it should be bullet points, not paragraphs. That's a personal preference. So.
I like it too.
I think there's also a bit of analysis paralysis going on where people feel like they have to be, 100% behind the idea in order to vote for it. And I notice that some people will ask a question on the proposal that just, it seems to be picking out quite a tiny point. And it's almost as if they think that that's the idea of commenting on the proposal, is that they have to find something wrong with it. So I think we also could work to perhaps increase people's understanding of consensus and the idea that it's not I'm 100% in agreement with this. It's more that I can live with this and I think that this is the right direction. Because if you want everybody to love the proposal before they vote for it, then you can't please everybody all of the time, and you're not going to always get that buy-in. So maybe a little bit of education around like what we're actually trying to achieve by having somebody vote on a proposal. It's not necessarily, oh my gosh, I love this idea. It's this idea will not, make me lose sleep.
Agreed.
Yeah, good point. One last thing from me is like maybe looking into the tools that are available to make governance more fun or more accessible or more gamified. It might be worth also exploring again, because I remember there was the Stroked Out proposal a few months ago, and which Tommy Olofsson pushed forward, I think, together with Grendel and the Polygon team. And I have even a few testnet token, like joked out tokens on Moonlight testnet, but I think we have never really picked that up. So might be, and I think Jenga has already written, no, Anders has already written down, like doing a bit more research in that area. It's like looking into maybe experiments that we've kind of started, but never really pushed forward and see whether they could, you never know. Maybe it will trigger something and we will, find the tool useful and then have much more engagement than we ever expected. So, yeah.
Good point. There's a governance tooling point in the long-term work streams. Something for that crew, and yeah, probably should get that conversation started. But okay, let's try to summarize some of the points. One is that we generally think that the authors should promote their own proposals and get them to completion. There shouldn't be a squad dedicated to this. Two, it would be nice to have more people engaged, and of course there are different activities that we can do, write better proposals, write them in different formats, use bullet points for people to understand the TLDR, etc. But yeah, maybe there could be another way to look at this. One way is to say, of course, how can we get more people involved? Or the other way is to say, how can we empower the people that are involved even further?
Like, overall aggregate level for some time. I mean, 20, 25 million tokens, given, any general proposal. But obviously, like, our big choke point is with quorum, right? And so, like, I wonder if there's a way to rethink quorum, that if we do decide to move forward with delegated voting, as a DAO, if we should also use delegation to reach quorum on forum, and what kind of tooling might exist around that going forward.
I think it's a very good point, especially when it comes to delegation. Many DAOs choose to go to snapshot for temp checks, like we do in our forums, and then the actual vote is held on chain, on Tally or some other platform. So that could be an option where the forum is just used to gather comments and some sort of rough consensus, and once there is a temp check, that is actually done on snapshot.
Yeah, but the problem is that we don't have anything which we are governing on chain, right? And it is just spending gas for nothing. That's also actually a major problem with those DAOs too.
Doesn't Governator do token weighted?
Yeah, it's just it checks on like wallet composition. I mean, I think in that case it's the same as snapshot.
And then if someone has delegated tokens to your wallet address, do you get that much governance power, or only what you have in your balance?
That's a great question.
We discussed this with Bog at some point. Is I think we have a bunch of members who are holding the bank tokens in a hot wallet, and they may want to continue voting with the same wallet, but transferring their tokens into, let's say, a cold storage, like a cold wallet. And so I don't know if this is easy to enable, but kind of figuring out how we can ensure that people, don't have to necessarily centralize their holdings in order to, vote with the maximum capacity of potential voting power they have, if you know what I mean. So does it make sense?
Well, Senat, I was trying to get this implemented on Snapshot for like 7 months right now, and no one is actually, no one is there to write that for the Snapshot thing. So if we can get someone to write that thing, then it's super easy.
I mean, what do others think? There seems to be obviously supporting.
Yeah, I think we can take it like one step at a time. I support Bear, you support Senat, you support. I think there's some others also, but take like a roundtable as you suggest, Hyro, on one of the community calls. See what people feel, and if there's a general agreement, we can go with the proposal. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, I'd love to get a sense of the community. I have no idea whether delegates voting is supported in general, or if it's just kind of niche stuff that people who care about governance think about. So I would love to get this thing roundtabled up, maybe even this week, depending on what else is on the agenda. I haven't looked in the channel.
I think it's up for grabs.
I'd personally love to have like a forum roundtable. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a later one, but delegation that's a cool big topic.
Ice, when you say forum roundtable, do you mean just like this list of stuff that's pending that Jenga dropped earlier today?
Like,
Yeah.
It's a frustration. I mean, maybe that one's like I don't know. That's maybe there's more thought to be put, because I think delegation is a quick and easy conversation, or not a quick and easy, but that's a more easily entered into conversation versus trying to like, all right, everybody that's got a forum up, or a proposal up, join the CC call and talk about it. I think the overhead on that's a little bit harder.
But definitely important too, though. Like, I mean, don't think we should discount it at all. Jenga,
yeah, go on.
No, it's okay. Go for it, please.
So I was suggesting, in the same way I dropped it today, I can make a small summary of all the pending proposals. I can write like a small summary of the discussions we've had when it comes to authors promoting their own stuff, as well as the need to engage more people in governance and other potential solutions, including delegation, and then leave it up for people for comments, and then say in the end, hey, we will also do a roundtable on Friday about this topic, so there can be further discussion.
That's great. So I could even see us doing it like, okay, we're all going to do this together, all right? You know, we're going to set some time. Go to the forum, here we go. Now click on something. Approve, reject, abstain, now.
But like Ice, that's brilliant though, right? Like, I mean, do live governance at the roundtable. I think that's a killer idea. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. That's great. That'd be fun. We can even play some music or something.
Yep. I just thought I'd let folks know. So in the governance department Workstream database, if you go into the database instead of just the view on the page, the home page, there's a Kanban set up that show the BDIPs and all the different stages that they're in. Non-BDIP proposals, I'm starting to get entered in. I've created a field that identifies like action stages, so we know like we can identify and prioritize things that we do want to raise awareness of, either for requirements or feedback. And then I also have the ability to track word counts, OKRs, and KPIs if people include those, as well as their labor hours in their Kanban cards that they manage.
Fantastic, Ernest. Thank you for arranging all the Kanban, and also thank you for basically taking ownership of it. Helps a lot. Okay, so quick summary. I will post a summary as well as call for comments about all these pending proposals. And then on Friday, we have a roundtable along with some sort of a live polling experiment to see what happens. Is that cool?
That sounds great.
I'd
be happy to sing and dance on that one, like moderate it.
I just want to mention to Ice Cool too that I've started putting the Treasury Department proposals that are in their research stages into this Kanban, so that as we develop and start managing those projects, then it can easily slip in here.
You're a legend. Awesome. I really appreciate that.
That I just learned by watching links. I swear, his tactical meetings in PM Guild have been pretty good. Him and Grad.
Links is debatably a smart person to follow. Okay, I digress.
I agree. All right, half an hour past, 2 more topics to go. I suggest we move on to a quick round of updates from some of the work streams. Shall we start with the governance talks? TrueCat, do you have something?
I think my part of that was really done. We discussed last week that I had added links to the various things, and I said he was going to do some work to add some more detail about getting something to snapshot. But apart from that, I wasn't aware there was anything outstanding for me.
All right. Then I move that card to the done part. Thank you, TrueCat. Okay, then we have governance incentives. We haven't been able to meet last week, but I believe we are going to meet from this week onwards. Ernest, do you have any other information on this?
I'll just add the so basically in the ThriveCoin workstream, just developing a spreadsheet to help folks get set up for contributions on Thrive. So as long as items are, you can identify the contributions and you can estimate, some kind of value that contribution brings back to the DAO, then we can quickly set up Thrive rewards. So we don't have to have all the governance incentives, at once, but yeah, we got some already that we're tracking, so I can, show those folks who are interested in developing this a little bit what that spreadsheet looks like and how we measure value back to the DAO, or how we use that measurement that you provide.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ernest. All right, then we have a lot of things here. How do I go to only workstream? Is there an only workstream option? I guess not. Maybe the Constitution crew. Is there an update here?
Okay, so I just want to acknowledge Ernest's work in the Constitution crew. Ernest is the Constitution crew right now. Thank you very much.
Lead of the Constitution workstream.
I'd love to help manage and facilitate it. I'd really like somebody to help with the facilitation of the meetings so that they can be like maybe the voice of facilitator of the meetings, and then it's much easier for me to like note take and create documents for folks, to be able clear documents for folks to be able to review and comment on. So, I do need some support, but happy to, do that.
I'm happy to facilitate meetings, Ernest, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to step away. I'm just not, that's not where my strengths are. And so I want to just kind of recognize that.
Yeah, and my strengths are creating typos, not catching them. So, but I can organize my typos quite well.
Yeah, and I can help out with meeting facilitation as well with you, Hero.
Sweet, that'd be awesome.
Amazing. Also, a quick feedback for you all. Could you add this as a meeting in the calendar so others who are interested can join?
Yeah, I think Mina had done that, but we can have a look at that and see.
Yeah, and I think we were doing it one meeting at a time, so we need to kind of re-look at what times we're doing, and as soon as we do that, we can create the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Anything else for Constitution crew?
Ernest, just because it was you and Dalexa last week, would you mind giving the group an update about what you did and where we're heading to?
Yes. So essentially, we want to identify, to break the whole process down into steps. First, if we can just identify and agree on all the areas that need improvement, then we can kind of prioritize those areas. I suggest based on, whether or not guilds and projects and departments need that information for budgeting purposes. And so if we can spend the next week, there's a timeline at the end of the our homepage, but if we can identify major and minor areas that need improvement, prioritize those quickly, move on to suggesting the edits and resolving those suggestions, then we can, got a kind of timeline here where we can get that done before the end of the season. And yeah, it just starts with identifying what areas folks thinks need improvement. And then it helped me to break down those individual areas and then look at them so that, it's just not too much information on one page. To the extent that we can sync up and review some of this docs, maybe create their own doc to start off with, and just review it and identify, and then we'll bring those docs together and parse out how to improve those sections after we identify the sections.
Yeah, I started my own doc last night, so I have started.
And I do have a doc, but for me, I don't mind looking at different people's docs and then bringing them all together in one doc. But it was helpful for me to have my own separate version that I could look at. If documents aren't resolved quickly, they get very busy and then hard to even read. So, but you do it helps to be together to resolve, maybe not all the comments, but there'll definitely be comments where it's going to take, take some syncing up to discuss. And if the format, if everybody liked the format change, then I will get a temp check BDIP drafted to make the change to the format and throw that up for folks to review this week, and then hopefully get that published next week. And then that'll make it easier, to let folks know ahead of time, at least, okay, this having some shape to what's coming.
Yeah, I've started kind of revising that just a little bit in my version that I've put under yours on the page that you created, but nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for the update, Ernest. Okay, and then we have the multisig crew. Sanab, was it you?
Yep, that's correct. So yeah, I just came back from Denver. I'm heavily jet lagged, and there are a few comments since the last 3 or 4 days I have to get back to. That being said, I think we have around 30 to 35 votes on each poll. Okay, the last poll has 26. So, general question would be, what do you guys think of, how many votes should there be in the temp check before we kind of create a potential BDIP and push forward?
For me, it seems okay.
I'm sorry, say that. Go ahead, Chinga.
I just wanted to say, for me, the amount seems okay now to proceed.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to highlight is that I think there's two parts here. Is there's a multi-sig election and there's a BDIP to define some of these components of what the multi-sig, like the mandate and expect.
The BDIP would just to get input and kind of the sentiment of the community on whether we should also change the role requirements, right? So if you want to make this two separate proposals, like how would you add another proposal? Like, do you see two BDIPs here or just one?
No, yeah, I think the just for the process that I see here is that like there's an election and that's its own thing, and that's like to replace the multi-sig. And then there's like we're doing two things, is kind of talking about election and defining and better defining the multi-sig and the B.
To at the end of this season, hopefully we will have the temp check done, BDIP pushed forward with community feedback, hopefully approved. In case it's approved, there's an election submission similar to how the grants committee elections are being run, and then there is the actual election. And so these are proposals in total. Two of them have to move to snapshot, which are the BDIP as well as the election itself. Yeah.
I think there's
Okay.
just a couple of things here too. Like one, I mean, with a temp check, I mean, is it the number of votes that makes it checked properly, or is it the amount of time it's been on the forum? And so I think that's one thing that's kind of clarify for the future. In terms of this MS temp check, I mean, so what is your thoughts, not in terms of including bank compensation in the BDIP? I mean, it seems like there's broad support for certainly the standards that are in that temp check, but not necessarily for compensation, like even whether they should be compensated at all. And I'd also just kind of caution against like putting compensation, like specific compensation into, the Constitution, right?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, and I haven't had time to think about it. But Lynx, sorry to put you on the spot. I hope you're here still. Can you add your thoughts on that? Because I think it was also your idea to kind of add this component to the current temp check. Given the results of the current temp check in terms of whether multi-signers should receive compensation or not, it seems to be that it's kind of split, right? Or around 50% think we should multi-signers should receive compensation. Around 50% think they should not. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm looking at, so it looks like it's like 53 and 47 against. I mean, in general, I guess like the fact that the multi-signers are responsible for something so big, it's why I think compensation is around. Personally, if it was just me moving forward, I would take the temp check as like, yes, there should be some form of compensation, but lower than maybe what these things like some of the options are maybe.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Offhand, a few people who are like, yeah, I just signed them. I don't even check. Right. And it's just like, whoa, okay. I mean, like that's interesting, but it's because there's no time to check. There's no allocated time for you to check that stuff. Right. So I don't know. This was just me talking in DMs to people as I was kind of like, I talked to a few people here. What do you think the role of multi-sigs are? Right. And I asked some people follow-up questions, and not all multi-centers like take it as seriously as others.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a reasonable, like it's probably worth. So the thing that I would like, speaking as a multi-signer, is like actually a lower compensation. And so compensation, but not a lot. And the reason being, the like happy path, optimistic reason being, is that, if I get paid bank, I don't want it to be because I'm like a superpower holder. It's because like I'm being paid for what I'm doing for the DAO. And so as a multi-sig holder, it's kind of like a mantle of responsibility, and to like oversee something, but day to day, like busyness is like I'm not very busy as a I am right now actually, but I imagine when there's a lot of multi-stakeholders sharing the responsibility, I could see this. It's like seasonally there's like maybe 10 to 20 hours worth of work or something like that, and you know, that's because it's like it's a hurry. You know, like the work we do is like long time waiting. Okay, now weigh in on this. Long time waiting, weigh in on that. And I think just what I would personally prefer is like something that, like what I want to avoid, I guess, is for being a multi-sig holder to just accrue more and more power without, like, more voting power without contributing to the DAO.
Mm.
So
I
at
mean,
least that's my thinking on
I'll take
one thing that
TL
we can definitely
I'll take
yeah, we
TL
should
Bank.
think about TL Bank, including TL Bank more. Like, I think a lot of our governance issues, not a lot of our governance issues, but I talked with Eric at December about that. And this was part of the things that he wanted to tackle as a GSE was introducing the TL Bank model for governance as well. And maybe iSchool, you're already crafting something on that. But I don't want to digress too much. Maybe something for another time. What I wanted to say in terms of compensation is that it doesn't necessarily mean that the multi-signers, the next cohort, won't get paid. It's just a question of how. And I'm taking the example again of, you know, what the coordinate investigation working group did is like we can always, and when I say we, I mean the future multi-sig signers can always do the work and then report and ask the DAO for, you know, this is what we basically did. This is, you know, do you think we should, how much do you think we should get paid? And then kind of approving it. And then based on this report, actually requesting a budget for next season. So I wanted to throw this idea in of, even if we don't introduce any compensation in this BDIP, doesn't necessarily mean we can't do it later or and kind of establish it in a different way. So
I think comp can be a separate post as opposed to putting everything in one post, because the most important thing we want right now is to have active multi-sig signers, and if we can get them without comp, which is not ideal, but at least swapping them, then it's a good start.
Jenga, that was my exact same thought, and yeah, and you'd even, I think, want the BDIP crafted in a way so that somebody, maybe it's a grants committee, right, can adjust the comp if necessary without having to amend the Constitution, right? Like a part of the hope is the Constitution is as lean as possible. Don't think you want to have like comp in it, but you want some language that refers out to some body which can set comp for the multi-sig signers, or like you let it be done by a snapshot and form or something. But +1 on separating those two for the next BDIP purpose.
yeah, separating these two might, you know, we can always refer back to this initial post for a potential compensation kind of ask. I think after the community has weighed in now, it might make sense to just, you know, as Jenga said, get to the main purpose. The main purpose is to have active multi-signers, full stop. In terms of compensation, it doesn't have to necessarily be done right now. It can be always done, you know, after the work has been done. And you know, I really want to hear also from Lynx, because you've been kind of introducing this, and I think it makes totally sense. But would you be also happy with, you know, the idea that I've just introduced?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as long as we have the temp check, we can figure out how to get funding in the future. But the most important thing, as you've said already, is to get active multi-signers, and I'm all for that. However, we can expedite that process. That means leaving things out. Totally makes sense to me.
Sweet. So I would wait one more day. So I think the proposal's live. I see 6 days. I need sleep, a lot of sleep, but I will try to weigh in tomorrow. Kind of get back to homie. I see iSchool. You've been dropping a few comments as well. I don't know if they're just, you know, if there are questions or just comments, but I'll also get back to you on the forum. All
That's
right.
good.
Sure.
Thanks, Anad. Hope you get some sleep tonight. Okay, 6 more minutes to go and a couple of long-term projects. Maybe we just do like a quick overview and see if people are interested in signing up for any of them, unless someone else wants to. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on, Crypto.
Yeah, so I want to add, share my opinion about if we should compensate the multi-sig center. So I think if there's a way to provide a community to prove that the multi-sig centers of value, their mission, what value they're gonna provide it, besides their if there's a rule holder, responsibility already, then it will be easier for the community to prove the compensation for the multi-signers. So right now, I think some of the rule holders already, it seems like part of their responsibility already, should include those sign some, prove something, right? So if there's a clear definition or clear value that the signer going to bring to the community, definitely, I bet everyone going to.
Yeah, so here the idea is that the mission that we have now as a DAO was formed, at least not by me and many people who are still here. We didn't write this, but we inherited this, and at least some of us feel it's time for an update. So yeah, are there any volunteers interested in working on this workstream, clarifying the mission?
It's really interesting to me, but for the next couple of weeks won't be able to make any headway on it. If anyone needs help, if someone else wants to lead it and I can help them, I'm down for that. Or if we wait a couple of weeks, I could probably take it on.
Also want to hear.
Depending on how much work is, but maybe I could help some.
It's interesting. I think just one thing that I wanted to add.
Who said that?
To this is
Sorry.
I think that was Alexa.
Anaphant,
okay.
I guess.
Thank you. Sorry.
Great. I think the one thing that I hear a lot of people debate on the mission, and one thing I at least want to, I'll take it to the work stream.
I'd love.
Yeah, you can add me also on the list, Ernest, please. Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question? Seeing as our school's here, just wanted to find out if there was so on that original multi-sig signers snapshot, the quorum was set at bank 20% of the. And I just wondered if there was a discussion around moving away from that, or whether there was like a rationale, or just. I just wondered how it sort of changed from the number of votes.
Righty. We have a subthread kicked up for the mission. Whoever is interested can follow that up. 1 more minute to go. Anyone interested in governance tooling?
What exactly is that?
Well, to explore like the tools that we are using today, and then figure out what tools could be used tomorrow for better learning.
Yeah, I can support you on that.
Yeah, same here.
Perfect. Thank you, Think Decade and Bear. Finally, have governance incentives, V1. Yeah, but this is the ThriveCoin thing. Yeah, mitigating governance attacks. So this is a sort of a group that was started inside the legal guild. So at least I will be part of it. Is there anyone else interested? All right, so it's just me for now. If more of you are interested, we can follow back in. for these long-term work groups, we don't expect this to be finished before the end of the season at least. So we'll do like less check-ins, maybe once a month, as compared to the short-term ones. But yeah, at least that was it from my side for today. Any final comments or thoughts?
Chica, you can add me to the governance attack task.
The
migrating attacks.
Oh, okay. Mitigating, yeah, sounds good. All right, that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jenga.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice seeing you. Goodbye.
Thanks.